Hey y'all, I'm James Wright. Welcome to my shop, and today we're making the Studley Mallet. So studly. The bronze cast Studley style mallet, and this is going to be a lot of fun. Now this casting is rough, and you can see how it doesn't quite match up perfectly. That's okay. It's designed to be much larger. It needs to be, you can file it back. I use a Wright tail file to get in here and clean up these curvatures, as they're just about the right. But making the joint from one corner to the other is kind of tricky, and you have to play that very, very carefully. And I'm going to do a lot of it with the rough files and get it roughly close, and then I'm going to come in with a slightly finer file, and then a slightly finer file, and I'm going to get rid of all the scratches from the previous one, or at least most of them, and give it a rough shaping on the outside. For the inside, I need to make sure that the corners are good and sharp, and that they are parallel from one entry to the other entry, or the entry and exit. And I want to make sure that those are good and clean and the exact same sizes so that the piece going through can fit into it. For the face, I'm going to be using this piece of Cadillacs. I used it in a previous video recently and had a couple little scraps left over from it. And so this will be just about the right size. It needs to be cut down into a few smaller dimensions, but we're going to first cut it to the length. And I want it to stick out about 1/4 inch past the bronze on either side. So I'm going to cut it to roughly about that length. And then I'm going to start by truing up one surface. I want to make sure that that's nice and square and true. And then I'm going to square up the second face to the first edge. And once I get that close, then we can actually dimension the others off of it. And I want to make sure that this is exactly 90 degrees, because the hole it's going into is 90 degrees, and it's going to make everything much better. So once I get this up, now I can go back over to the bronze and I can measure precisely how wide it is. And I want this to be a hair's width wider, so that when it goes in, it actually shears off the fibers and it sort of scrapes it to the exact size. So I'm going to use my calipers and then transfer that to the marking gauge. The marking gauge, I know that line is going to be a hair bigger than I need to be, so I can stay away from that a little bit more, and I can plane back to it. So I'm going to use my tenon saw to rip this down, and then we can smooth out that face down to those lines that we just drew with the marking gauge. And then I can check it and make sure it is what we want to have for the width of the mallet face. Then we can do the exact same thing again for the height of the mallet face, and we can measure it out with the calipers, transfer that to the marking gauge, and then cut that down. And so this should fit right down in there. And after doing a little more detailing, which I didn't get on camera, just running the plane over it and smoothing it out and making sure it's what I want, we can jam it down in here. And you can see how it's kind of shearing off the fibers right on that top face. That's what I want. I want a really, really nice tight fit, but I still want it to be able to slide in there and give me that good clean surface. I can't pound it all the way down because it has to extend out past the other surface. So we'll put it in the vise and then pound it down the rest of the way. And there, we've got our block this way. But now we need a handle to go through that hole. But now there's a block in the way. What are we going to do? Well, first we're going to start off by boring a hole. I'm sorry, every project has to have its boring part. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to grab this that is a little bit smaller, about a 1/16 of an inch or less smaller than the width of the hole. And we can bore down halfway from one side, flip the head over, bore down the other way from the other side, and then we can come in with a chisel and remove the waste back to it. And for the chisel, the nice thing is we already have this bronze guide on there, and if we undercut a little bit more into the block inside, that's not a huge issue. But I'm going to use the bronze casting as the guide to actually guide the chisel down. And I'll chop in from the end grain, and then I'll pare in from the side and pop out those pieces, and then again chop in a little bit deeper, pare out, go down about halfway from one side, and then flip it over, and then go halfway from the other side. And I'm going to get it relatively close, but there's still going to be some stuff sticking out in there. And the nice thing is we can just come in with a file and then use the guide from one side to the other. And I want to go until I just kiss the bronze. I don't want to grind into it anymore, because anything I do, it's going to open up that hole. And I want to make sure that whatever I do to one edge of the bronze, I'm doing to the other edge of the bronze, so that these two remain the exact same sizes. Speaking of which, we need to then figure out what are those sizes. We're going to use the same technique we used before, marking gauge coming off of the calipers, and we're going to start by measuring down the thickness of the handle. I'm going to be using this piece of ash, and it works out really well for this. There's a nice balance to it, and surprisingly, what I bought the other board for, I bought the ash for, and so I've been using them in projects together. It's kind of nice. But after cutting it down to width, we can come back in and plane it. And what I'm going to do is plane it and then check it in here and then plane it and check it in here. And I want it to just wiggle in there ever so slightly. And that's really what we want. Once we get that, now we can do the thickness of the piece. Or is this the width of the piece? Whichever it is. We're going to do the other dimension. Lay that out with the marking gauge, and then we're going to plane down to that line. It's too close to cut. I'm going to do the rough with the low angle jack. I have that set to take a really heavy cut. And then we can come in with a smoothing plane and detail it. And now you can see how this is going to pound down in there and give me a really nice tight fit. We can pound it most of the way through. To get that last little bit, we actually have to put it in the jaw of the vise so that it can stick out. Just like with the other faces, I want it to stick out about 1/4 inch. And so I'm going to see where it's at, but this we're going to have to take back apart because I need to do some more detail work on it, as well as the head, and it's just easier to do without the handle in there. So we can drive that out, and then we can shape the handle. I put that line on there that's not right where the bronze is, but a little bit away from it. I'm just going to stay away from that line because I still want it to be square up at the top. I did think about putting in the brass inlay pieces like in the Studley, but I decided not to do that. It's a very delicate handle, and I don't want to weaken it anyway. I'm going to cut in a couple slots for wedges as well, and then we're going to create these wedges out of some ipe, just a small block of it I had. And once you get them down to size, you can shear them down into a wedge shape with a chisel. It actually goes pretty quickly and easily. And no, I'm not going to hurt the chisel with the aluminum dog. The aluminum is much softer. We want to cut the faces off of the mallet so that they are 1/4 inch out from the bronze, and so I can use the calipers to mark that face, get it roughly where it needs to be with the saw, and then I can come in with the low angle block to get it really close, and then the file, this wood just shines up and goes so beautiful. I really like how that came out. I want to do a little bit of detail in the brass, and I decided to shine this up some. I could do a lot more on here, but just using some polishing pads on the drill goes pretty well. Actually, this is a headlight shining kit. And clean it up. You can still see there's lots of scratches and things on there. That's fine. I just want to make it look a little bit shinier than I normally do. I don't know. I'm feeling a little fancy. I want to put a couple chamfers on the face, and this way, if you do hit something right on the edge, it's not going to chip off the face of the block. It also looks really cool. I thought about doing a chamfer on the bronze as well to match, but then decided not to. So now let's put this back together, drive in some wedges, and of course, we're going to oil it. And you can drive it in by pounding it on, or you could drive it by hitting the handle, or there's lots of different ways. So I did it a couple different ways each time, and each time I found, ooh, I like this way, ooh, I like that way. One of those interesting things. So those wedges we made earlier, we can drive those in, cut them off flush, and then plane them down smooth. I do want to do a little bit of detail work. You can see I put the chamfers on the very edge of it, and then come in with the file to do the last smoothing on it, and I love the look of file, how that came out on this. I'm going to finish it off with a little bit of a sandpaper. This is a very high grit sandpaper, and I'm just doing a fairly light scrub on it. I want to work the dust into the pores, especially in this ash. It will soak in the oil a little bit deeper, and that actually will bring out the color. For the really sharp corners, I'm actually going to do those with a file because I want those to be nice and clean, and the file gives you the beautifully sharp edge. The finish that I'm using is a boiled linseed oil. It's actually tried and true's Danish oil. What they call Danish oil is actually just a simple raw boiled linseed oil. Good stuff. And oh, I love how it brings out the color in here. Let it sit, let it soak up as much as it wants. Then that's about it. A little bit of paste wax, and she's done. And I really like how this came out. Really nice and clean, and very, very happy. So there you have it. This is kind of a remake of the Studley Mallet. I purchased this at one of the MWTCA meets, and he actually casts these bronze heads, and you can put your own handle into it. Now, this isn't a remake of the Studley in that I'm doing a bunch of things very different, but I really like how this came out. It's a really simple, interesting design, but kind of cool. Now, I didn't take it to its full polish. As you know on this channel, I don't like doing that. I like leaving a lot of the marks in there, but still seeing it. I probably took this one a little bit farther than I take most things, though. So, yeah. Another mallet. I'm having a lot of fun with this, and I really love how this thing came out. It's got a really good feel to it, and a very pleasing mallet. And I will make Ian very happy because, of course, it's made of ash. So I hope you like this. If you have any questions, thoughts, ideas, snide remarks, throw those down below. I do read through all the comments, and I answer as many of those as I can get to. So thank you for that. And it really does help out the channel. Anytime you like, comment, share, subscribe, helps us get in front of more people. You know how it works. Algorithm and all. Thank you. But if you really, really want to help us out and you like what we do here, think about joining these people over here. Those are some of the fantastic, wonderful, benevolent, gorgeous people over on Patreon. Because without patrons or members, we wouldn't be here. You guys are the ones who sponsor this channel, and I don't get to say what I want to say. I'm not forced to say what I want about some company who is sponsoring me to do what I want to do. I get to show off the things that I want to show off and actually put my own heart into this channel. So thank you for making that happen. If you want to find out more, you know what to do. Links down below. I think that'll do it for now. And until next time, have a wonderful day. This really is a very, very cool mallet, but it's my third favorite mallet because, well, it's the bronze mallet.